Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 31 of Bank to the Future Live. This show, for those of you that might be new to the show, is where we go through all things Bank to the Future. And today, we thought that we would give you the TLDR. This is a new jargon that I learned because people keep tweeting me when I share a video, what's the TLDR? And I find out it's too long, didn't read. And so what we're going to do in this episode of episode 31 of Bank to the Future Live is we're going to give you the TLDR on all previous episodes and just give you an overview of what you need to know for each different topic that we covered on all 30 episodes of Bank to the Future Live. And then at the same time, let's, rather than wait till the end, if there's any questions that come through, we can just take questions throughout. The whole idea of this episode of Bank to the Future Live is to really be an AMA. We'd love you to ask any questions that you'd like answered. You've got a number of ways in which you can do that. You can either head over to our Telegram channel at BF_token. We created the Telegram channel when we did our token sale, and most of our community congregated around there. You can get your questions answered there, or you can hashtag us on hashtag BFLive on Twitter. Also, there's live comments if you're watching this on YouTube, and there's less engagement on Facebook. It tends to all happen on YouTube and Twitter and Telegram. So we'll focus on those ones. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the content. Just before I do that, remember to check out the new pitches live on Bank to the Future. We currently got 3 pitches live and 4 in the pipeline. And we just signed a contract with our next major deal, which will be our 5th one. So every now and then we have a very popular company that we anticipate is a little bit further along the stage and will be very popular. And we look forward to delivering that one to you. Our last one like that was the Kraken pitch, which had approximately over 2,000 investors invest into the round. So we're excited to have signed up our next major deal like that, as well as bringing 4 earlier stage companies. We've still got our 6 secondary markets. So if you want to buy and sell shares in SPVs that own shares in Ripple, Circle, Bitfinex, and I forget some of the others, but I'll look over on the platform and remember those. Then our secondary market, still in beta, but you can deposit to the fund section of your account. And also you get those 50% discounted trading fees if you pay with Bank to the Future token when buying and selling on the secondary market. And we've got the 3 deals live. We are still working, set to make an announcement with our new payment provider, which should be coming live early October, and also the US broker-dealer partner to get those deals up and running now that we've integrated with the new escrow provider. So look forward to bringing those updates to you. And now, without further ado, let's go through the topics on the different episodes of Bank to the Future Live. So we've been going live for 30 weeks now. And I believe we only missed 1 episode, and that's when Google was down. And so it just got so late that we decided to cancel. So we only missed 1 week, but this is our 31st week. Famida will also be moderating. So Famida, at any time, feel free to interrupt and grab a question that comes up in any of the live channels, because this one is really designed to be more interactive, as long as we've got people that have those questions they want to get answered. So I guess the very first episode is when we went through investing in crypto equity and security tokens. So we gave a big overview of the platform. If you head over to episode 1, there's a couple of places you can get this. Either you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see all the videos there, or you can go to our playlist you can see them there on the YouTube channel, or you can head to our blog, go to the footer of the website, and you'll see the blog section where we post all of the videos and everything and all the announcements and updates. So the first one was about going through the platform, explaining the difference between the primary markets and secondary markets, and the difference between crypto equity and security tokens. And also some of the contracts for investing in utility tokens. I think the TLDR from this episode, if I remember 30 weeks back, is that there's differences between security tokens, equity, and utility tokens sold in compliance with securities laws. And some of our investors are experiencing these challenges. One is that when you invest in equity, there is a contract that binds you to the company. When you invest in security tokens, you may not necessarily get the upside. The security token defines it. It's not equity, where you get an ownership stake in the company, which entitles you to dividends. And security tokens are constructed in very many different ways. It's a new asset class. It might entitle you to revenue that the company generates, or however the security token operates. Eventually, the idea is that security tokens one day become as liquid as cryptocurrencies or more, and therefore you have a secondary market, and it changes the landscape of investing in private equity. But also security tokens come in different forms. It could be tokenized equity, it could be revenue share, it could be just a token that's sold as a security, as an investment contract. And then also you've got, so some people that have invested in tokens through our platform, we sell it as a security that gives you entitlement to the token in the future. But then once the token is delivered, you don't get any of the rights that you do get with an equity holder, or that you might get with a security token. And therefore investing in crypto tokens is a different thing. The pros and cons are that you get more liquidity because cryptocurrency exchanges can make a market in them as long as they're not considered a security. But if they're considered a security, they can only trade on a security token exchange. And with equity, we've now got an over-the-counter secondary market to give a hybrid best of both worlds as well. So that's a TLDR from the first episode. The second episode was all on the history and roadmap. So what we did is we went through the Bank to the Future history, some of the milestones that we've achieved, and if people are interested in our roadmap, what we've done now in the description of this channel, or in the live chat, if one of the team can find it, maybe for me, they might be able to find it so that we can drop it in, is a link to our new Trello board. And that Trello board outlines the history of the company, some of the important milestones, and also our planned roadmap. So we started as an online investment platform, but now we're really building an ecosystem and looking to disrupt ourselves as the security token industry grows. So we've got our wallet, the Bank to the Future wallet. So the TLDR is you've got BnkToTheFuture.com. We have primary markets, which is new, more early stage companies, or more established Series A, Series B. And then you've got a secondary market, which is where you can buy and sell with qualifying investors to add more liquidity into private equity, which traditionally has had no liquidity until the company exits. Then we introduced the BF wallet, which is our security token wallet, to explore and experiment with issuing security tokens. We've more recently added so last year we added the Bank to the Future token, which gives people 50% discounted trading fees when they pay their fees using the Bank to the Future token on the secondary market. And also if you hold 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens either on your BnkToTheFuture.com account or the BF wallet, then you get priority access, 48-hour priority access to all deals, and also exclusive deals that only go out to priority access holders. We've got 4 more that we'll be sharing with our Bank to the Future priority access deal members. And so check out that Trello board if you want to see more of the future products that we've got, including the Bank to the Future exchange, the Bank to the Future identity products that we're releasing at the moment, and different parts of the ecosystem. The team is very busy. Episode 3, we covered who qualifies to invest on Bank to the Future. The TLDR for that is that we have a unique onboarding process for each country. Some countries are more restricted in terms of who can invest in high risk, high return asset classes, such as security tokens and private equity. Other countries are a bit more liberal. And so what you have to do is you have to head over to BnkToTheFuture.com. And when you register, when you sign up, it won't let you invest unless you qualify to invest. So therefore, you just need to be one of the, it will present who can invest in your country. If you are one of those people, you can self-certify, and then you're able to make an investment. If you fully certify, then you can do additional things, like, which means to sign an agreement, and you provide additional documents if you're in the US, for example. And each country has their own definition of a qualifying investor. In the US, it's called an accredited investor. In the UK, it's something like a sophisticated high net worth investor. In Europe, there's different definitions: professional investor, and it depends if you're a company, and you can sign up as a company or you can sign up as an individual. So it's a bit too complicated to give you the blanket answer, but here's what you do. You just need to register. When you register, it will tell you who's invest. If you agree that you are that person, and then you get to see if you are and you qualify. So we're up to episode 3. That if you want to go through the full details, we on the episode we published a chart and went through all the details. Just going to take a quick water break. Okay. Episode 4 was on different ways to invest in crypto companies. So TLDR is that we have lots of different pitches on Bank to the Future. So you should always check what type of pitch you're investing into. One of those is a equity, which is the most straightforward. It means you get shares in the company via one of our SPV structures. What is an SPV? It's a special company that we set up that holds the shares in the company. You get shares in the SPV, and we act as the one investor on the cap table for the company, making this possible, whereby they can open this up beyond just the normal venture capitalists, and that's why many of our qualifying investors have been able to build a great portfolio in some of the most valuable companies in crypto and other companies that have not been so successful, but you can build a portfolio to diversify. The different ways of investing is equity. You also have convertible notes, which was a product really created in Silicon Valley, which is where the valuation is not set. You lend the money to the company, but it's not really a loan, it's just a loan product. And it will later convert to equity once a venture capitalist sets a valuation in the company, later at Series A or Series B round. The way that companies tend to do funding is they start with a seed round, which is your first funding round. Prior to that, they might have done a friends and family round. And then Series A is when you get a professional investor to invest and value the company. And then Series B is when you raise more, hopefully at a higher valuation. That's called an up round. Or if things aren't going away, you might need to pull in more money, and you do it at a down round, which is where you raised money at a certain price, but then you get a lower price, and that's not good. But each round sets a pricing event, and the pricing event is what we use in order to benchmark what the current price is. But because there's often a lag between the seed, Series A, Series B, all the way up to CDE, sometimes the value of the company may not reflect the true value. So equity is traditionally hard to value, which is why our secondary market comes in if the company is succeeding, so that people, our investors on the platform, can set real-time prices based upon real-time trades. You also have security tokens, as we said, we did like the lottery.com, and then you have utility tokens that are sold in compliance with security laws. And the way you do that is we do a SAFT, which is a simple agreement for future tokens. It's an investment contract that a qualifying investor can invest in. It entitles them to tokens in the future, but once the tokens are issued, then the contract expires and there's no further obligations to the token, the people that own those tokens. So that's the TLDR on the different products. You also have different things like safes, which is simple agreement for future equity. But when you go to a pitch on Bank to the Future, we'll always disclose what type of pitch it is, how the product works, and you can get further details on the investor page. Episode 5 was how to place an order on the Bank to the Future secondary market. So if you want to build a portfolio of companies, I'm just going to pull up the website and have a look and remind myself of the different companies on the beta version of the secondary market. We currently have the Bitfinex SPV, which is our most liquid, and it's listed on the secondary market in order of liquidity. We also have the Circle SPV, then you have the Ripple Labs SPV, the Kraken SPV, the blockchain.com SPV, and the BitPay SPV. So if you missed all those deals and you'd like to build a diversified portfolio of companies in the ones that are succeeding the most, then you can head over to our secondary market. And in episode 5 of Bank to the Future Live, we gave you a demo of how to place a buy order, how to place a sell order, how to pay your fees in Bank to the Future tokens so that you get a 50% discount off the trading fees, and everything you need to know in order to place an order on the secondary market. So check out episode 5 if you want to understand more about the secondary market. Episode 6 was the concept of a liquidity premium and discount. I think this is a really interesting topic, especially while we're in beta. And that is because private equity is less liquid than, say, a token or a public company. There's this concept of a liquidity premium and discount, which is that people often, for various reasons that have nothing to do with the company, might need to actually sell or liquidate some of their stock or an investment that they've made. Now, traditionally, if there's no secondary market, there's no way of doing that. You have to wait. It's long term, it's high risk, it's high return. You have to wait till the company exits. They go public on a stock market, or they get sold to another company as an acquisition, or they do a management buyout where the management decide that they want to buy out all their shareholders. Or more recently, thanks to Bank to the Future, it might be listed on a secondary market through our SPV structure. So traditionally you have to wait for those. But on our secondary market, we've noticed that there's a liquidity premium and discount. The reason is because people might need to sell, not because they want to sell the company, but maybe they want to go out and buy a house, or they're less patient, or they don't want to wait longer, or they think that they just want to cash in at the current price. So things can happen, which means that people want to sell and you might want to buy because you like the company, and people are willing to sell at either a discount to the actual underlying value of the company. So remember, on Bank to the Future, there's two prices. There's the value of the company, which is the direct shares, and there's the value of the special company that we set up just to hold those shares. There's no guarantee that those things are going to be the same price. So for example, the last direct share that was traded in Bitfinex was at about $16. Right now, people are paying about $6 to $7 for Bitfinex SPV stock. So there's an instant $10 liquidity discount that somebody that believes in the future of Bitfinex can take advantage of, because the price of the direct equity is not priced at the same as the SPV at the moment. Now, as we get more liquidity, this might move into premium, where people are willing to pay more for than the actual underlying value, because it's the only way in. And you'd have to be a professional venture capitalist in order to get an allocation, or you come to Bank to the Future, or you've got another direct route where you might be able to invest directly. So this whole concept of a liquidity premium or discount, I think, creates a really interesting opportunity for the long-term investor to be able to invest in the more established companies, but at a premium or discount, depending on what the market is and who wants to sell. Just going to take a water break again before I go through episode 7. And Famida, if you've got any questions, feel free to do that, because I wanted to be a bit more interactive if anything comes up. Episode 7 was on investor relations and due diligence. So we went through the process of how we do our investor relations at the moment. You can head over, if you've invested in a pitch, there's 2 types of forums. One is the discussion forum. That's open to any qualifying investor that has an account on Bank to the Future. And then there's the investor zone. The investor zone is only open to people that actually own the shares through our SPV and are investor in the actual company. So once you buy on our secondary market, you then get access to the investor zone, or if you buy in the primary market, you'll get access to the investor zone. But the discussion forum is where people can, qualifying investors can discuss before they actually might become an investor. The TLDR is that we also have a due diligence process, which is that we tend to look for companies on our platform to have already secured a lead investor, which means a professional investor has set the price, And then we go through our due diligence process, the venture capitalist due diligence process, and then they can go through our qualifying investors that ask questions on the discussion forum. And we also go through to, look at making sure that things are factually accurate. But also there is asymmetric information here, so we can't be 100% sure, but we try to make sure that the pitches are fair, clear, not misleading, and that's our process. Now, more recently, we're also stepping up our investor relations process to make sure that we are notifying all the companies that we're expecting quarterly updates, and we'll be posting on the investor zone if we didn't receive that quarterly update, and putting a bit more pressure to try and get those. Just on that subject, for those of you that are the Bitcash, Kim.com, K.im platform investors, the company have been working on something that is going to be a big announcement next week. The contracts were just signed today. We've been supporting the team in making introductions to help the company move forward. So check out for that announcement next week. Hopefully, if that's all in place, we'll be covering that as the next topic on Bank to the Future Live in episode 32. If all goes to plan, but we'll let you know if that doesn't. But check out that. We're comfortable announcing that now because we've seen that the contract has been signed. And so hopefully that announcement will be made. Episode 8 of Bank to the Future Live, we discuss depositing funds to your Bank to the Future account. So we've now got a new automated deposit feature. We recommend that you actually use that when investing through BnkToTheFuture.com, because when you invest directly in a pitch, it goes through our third-party payment processor. And for example, card payments are not enabled at the moment, but they can be quite expensive. So you have to pay a fee to the merchant processor. And excuse the motorbikes that are coming through the window. That was loud to me, not sure how loud it was to you. Yeah, you can use the fund section of your account, and you can deposit without paying fees now. We do actually get charged a deposit. So the way that it works is if you just deposit funds and then you withdraw them without making an investment, then there is a withdrawal fee of 0.5%, because that's the fee we charge on the merchant processing fee. But if you make an investment, then you can deposit for free. If you ever get some returns, you can withdraw for free. But you can invest for free with that way as well. So head over to the fund section of your account. If you want to be prepared for future deals coming through, then you can deposit some USD or some USDT if you prefer staying in crypto market. And then you can use those to invest in pitches on the BnkToTheFuture.com platform. And so just head over to the funds, it makes it easy. But we went through the different depositing options. At the moment, we don't support Bitcoin or Ethereum deposits. The reason for that is because we found a lot of people were depositing Bitcoin and Ethereum, then withdrawing it, using us as a wallet. But we were never really designed as a wallet for storing those funds. And if you don't use those funds for investing, then there is a withdrawal fee. We don't want to charge you any withdrawal fees, but we do get charged those. So if you don't invest in the middle, we have that to, if you head over to the fees section on our platform, you can see the different fees and how that all works. So that was depositing funds to your BnkToTheFuture.com. If you want to go really deep into that, head over to episode 8. We give you a live demo. We've improved the user experience since that demo. We're looking, that's also been updated as well. Episode 9, the first ever security token. So we went through the process of how we issued security token through the BF wallet. And we also went through a token that not many people know about, but that was the Bitfinex hack recovery token. And we went through the case study, really interesting story. One of the most profitable investments, highest returning investments on Bank to the Future. Some of those really high returning investments that we've had on Bank to the Future was the Bitfinex SPV, the hack recovery token, that was actually one of the first ever security tokens. We also went through some of the security tokens and how we issued them through the BF wallet. Other highly returning products was the Ethereum mining product, and also the Kraken SPV. So those were some of our more higher returning deals. Also Bitstamp was a good return as well. But we went through the case study, and I think that's a really interesting episode for those of you that want to know your security token history. Episode 10 was announcing our multi-currency fiat deposits, partners, and the secondary market, and what needs to happen for us to come out of beta. The TLDR is that we're now integrated with USD deposits, USDT deposits, and all of our secondary market deals are denominated in USD. We are not creating Bitcoin denominated secondary markets or Ethereum denominated secondary markets. However, we are looking at in future releases when we launch a security token exchange to have markets in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Initially, it's being built, the decentralized security token exchange self-custodial is currently being built and beta tested with Ethereum at the moment. Episode 11 was announcing the new deals and our listing policy for secondary markets. The way that we're going to actually be doing that when we bring in new deals is the secondary market is going to be built, is really, we're going to define all of our deals into 3 different categories. Companies that are what we call, I guess, killing it. They're becoming a brand. They're becoming very established. Some of the companies that we launch on our secondary market. And because there's more access to information, more public press releases, and they act and operate more a bit closer to a public company rather than a private company because they're moving in that direction, then we allow it to be open to all investors, new investors and existing investors. The second type of secondary market listing is one that is going to be open just to existing investors. And the reason for that is because they're all on the same information curve. And then there's companies that won't make it to our secondary market because they haven't shown or demonstrated a high enough level of progress since securing the funding round. So if you want to know more about that, the TLDR is our listing policy. And then you can head over to episode 9 to learn a bit, episode 11 to learn a bit more. Just going to take a quick water break, be with you shortly. Okay, episode 12 is where we went through the Bitfinex tether situation. We gave our perspective and our experience of the Bitfinex situation, the New York Attorney General situation, and the things that were happening with crypto capital. So you can head over to episode 12. The TLDR is obviously we can't give financial advice, but we were going through the disclosures and giving that information. So if you're interested in our perspective and how it affects the Bitfinex secondary market, head over to episode 12 of Bank to the Future Live. Episode 13 of Bank to the Future Live covered the Bitfinex token sale, where they recovered from the situation by raising $1 billion in 2 weeks using their new token. And we went through our perspective on the situation and opened that up to qualifying existing investors in Bitfinex. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to episode 13 of Bank to the Future Live. Episode 14, we discussed how does the Bitcoin price affect BnkToTheFuture.com investors. The TLDR is that what we tend to see is that as the price of Bitcoin goes up, people are more willing to diversify because they consider that they get more value. And so as the price of Bitcoin goes up, we see more investing happening on the platform. And also we start to see more people use fiat. So as they start to get more bullish about their Bitcoin sentiment, whether it goes up and down, we start to notice trends that people prefer to use card payments or bank withdrawals or US dollars for investing instead of Bitcoin. But also some people, when the price goes down, they don't want to spend their Bitcoin, and we start to notice some interesting trends. If you want to know more about that, head over to episode 14 of Bank to the Future Live. Episode 15, we went through the Kraken partnership and equity. So we recently did a funding round for Kraken that brought in more investors in one deal than we've ever had in any other deal on Bank to the Future. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to episode 15 of Bank to the Future Live. and we went through the Kraken deal. 16 was on the Bank to the Future secondary market for Kraken. Remember, we did 2 rounds for Kraken. So those that invested in the early round, they are able to sell their shares on the secondary market. Those that invested in a more recent round, they have lock-in periods. If you're, depending on your country, it's either 1 year or 3 months. For most countries, it's 3 months. For US and some other countries, it's 1 year. The date for determining the lock-in period ending is the date when the shares were actually issued in the SPV. So you can see that date on your share certificate, and it will be either 3 months or 1 year, depending on your country, when you can sell those on the secondary market. And remember, because there is no compliant process for allowing US investors to buy shares in our SPV on our secondary market yet, then you're only able, if you're from the US, to sell on the market after those lock-in periods, as opposed to buy.
Simon.
So yep.
Hello.
Hello.
I do have a question about the secondary market here, actually.
Great.
Since you're on it, why are Shapeshift and Uphold not listed on the secondary markets, even though they were amongst the first investments on Bank to the Future?
So we're not listing on our secondary market based upon order of when you raise funding on Bank to the Future. We are listing based upon how much of an established brand the company is becoming. Now with both Uphold and Shapeshift, Shapeshift was completely rocking it. They were doing incredibly well. They would be the exact type of company that we want to list on our secondary market. But more recently, their business model changed as a result of compliance and enforcement, whereby they took the conservative approach where they needed to implement Know Your Customers, which was a major Know Your Customer service, which was a major shift from the original business idea and goal. I know Eric Voorhees and the team would never implement that if they didn't have to. It was just the way the compliance was moving and the direction the business was going. And then they needed to rebuild the platform, and they've relaunched now to create a hardware wallet to hardware wallet market. And in a sense, their numbers are starting earlier. And so it's kind of in a new phase of growth for the business. We do believe that they would be a great candidate for our secondary market. A lot of people know Shapeshift, but we were looking for them to relaunch their platform, which they have done now, and see where they're going. And we think it's an ideal candidate. With Uphold, Uphold were a distressed business at one stage. They were doing very well. They were one of the very early companies to offer really what later became the stablecoin. I'd say Uphold invented a version of the stablecoin, and Bitfinex created the stablecoin through Tether and Tether Limited. But Uphold were very early, but they went through management changes. They became a distressed company, and the new management team have actually done a very good job of turning around the company and re-establishing the brand. So Uphold, if they continue on their existing path, would also be a prime candidate for the secondary market. But they're up there in what we call, so we kind of rate our companies with green, yellow, and red. Red would mean that they're a failing company, it seems, or they're in danger of becoming a failing company. Yellow for us, this is internal, would be the type of company that would qualify for an internal secondary market. And green means that they're completely on the path to success and they would get a full secondary market because they're becoming an established brand.
Great, thanks for that. Just before you move on though, Simon, I've got one question in the live chat. How many Bitfinex tokens were sold on Bank to the Future?
I wouldn't know exactly offhand, but the size of the SPV, the way that it worked is for every token of BFX, you could convert that to at the time it was a $1 share. If you head over to the secondary market for Bitfinex and you click on more details, it actually lists the total number of shares in the SPV. So every share would have originally been one token because there was only one BFX token. You could exchange one BFX token for one share. And so therefore, the number of shares in the SPV equals the number of tokens that were converted. So you could find that out, but I don't have the exact number offhand.
Cool, that's it. You can continue on with the episodes.
Excellent. Okay, if you've got more questions like that, do interrupt, or even if you've got your own questions for me from helping the investor community like you did just then, do feel free to interrupt. Episode 17 was on different ways to invest in blockchain and crypto companies. I think that's a really useful episode if you're new to investing in private equity, security tokens, or utility tokens, and you want to understand the difference between all these different products. We went in great detail in this episode on the pros and cons of each different type of product, what is the difference between a SAFE, a SAFT, a convertible note, equity, utility token, and all the different products. So the TLDR is that the different products operate in different ways, give you different rights, are structured in different ways, have pros and cons. If you want to go deep dive into that and you're serious about building a portfolio in fintech and crypto companies, then head over to episode 17 of Bank to the Future Live. I think it was broken into two parts because we might have had a technical issue, and I think we got cut off by Google when doing it. So remember to check out part 2 as well. Episode 18 is when we announced and we had our first guest ever on Bank to the Future Live, which was Andrew, the CEO and co-founder of altcoin.io. And we announced the acquisition of altcoin.io and our strategy for turning it into a security token exchange by bringing it into part of the Bank to the Future ecosystem. So if you want to know more about the plans and the history of the Bank to the Future exchange, formerly altcoin.io was the technology and the team that built it, then head over to episode 18 of Bank to the Future Live. Quick water break, and we'll continue with more. Okay, episode 19 was the Bank to the Future token planned roadmap. So for those of you that are token holders and want to know a bit more about what we are planning, what we did, I think we went through every area that we originally planned as the roadmap in our white paper and on the original token sale. And we went through each point to determine whether we had achieved our milestone, and if we hadn't achieved our milestone, why? And if it was later, we went through and the different things that we've been through in terms of the Bank to the Future token. So if you're a Bank to the Future token holder, you want to understand more about the roadmap and what we're doing, what we've got planned for our integrations with the Bank to the Future token, head over to episode 19. Episode 20 was where we covered the difference between initial exchange offerings and equity. And so the TLDR is that initial exchange offerings are a new, I guess, format from the initial, so originally, to give you a little bit of the history, I remember that I think the first company that did ICOs, and they called it IPOs at the time, was a company called Havelock Investments, if you remember that one. For those of you that are old school Bitcoiners. And then that later became the ICO when Ethereum started to become the platform. Originally it was Omni that later became it was originally Mastercoin, I remember now. And more recently, as ICOs went through a regulatory crackdown and too many scams were happening through ICOs, exchanges started to perform the due diligence and do IEOs, initial exchange offerings. And we went through the history, the difference between when you buy a token through an IEO or an STO or equity. So if you're interested in understanding the different ways and the different platforms that are involved in that, then head over to episode 20 of Bank to the Future Live. Okay, so we've only got 10 more to go. Episode 21 was crypto investor terms. What did we cover on that one? So I think it was just going through how to find the different terms, how you can get your certificates, and forgotten the TLDR on that one. But I think, yeah, it was understanding, I think, all the different term sheets, understanding a bit more, and understanding where to get access to that information on Bank to the Future. So that's in episode 21. Bank to the Future episode 22 was going through the Bank to the Future identity, BF identity, and we launched its new organizational accounts on BnkToTheFuture.com so that you could sign up as a company rather than just an individual. And I think we went through some of the future plans for Bank to the Future identity. It's going through different phases. The BF identity phase right now is that we released organizational accounts. I think this week, if not next week, we'll be launching for new people that sign up our new automated identity process, whereby you can get completely verified within 3 to 10 minutes. And also our future roadmap, where you'll be able to use your identity verification certification to sign up with brokers and also use it on other platforms as the roadmap evolves. If you want to understand more about that, head over to episode 22 of Bank to the Future Live. Episode 23 was our new roadmap and how you can be involved in determining our roadmap. We went through the entire history, we went through some updates, and we gave details on how you can actually have input on our roadmap and what you'd like to see. So if you're interested in being involved and giving your input about what new features you'd like to see first, then check out episode 23 of Bank to the Future Live, and also check out the Trello boards that we've probably shared right here. Episode 24 was when we announced a new deal on our secondary market, which was the blockchain.com SPV. And there are also some different stages of, and the new PIT exchange. So blockchain.com were announcing at the time their new exchange integrated with the most popular wallet that exists in cryptocurrency. And at the same time, we were announcing that you can now buy and diversify further by having blockchain.com SPV shares. Interested in that, head over to episode 24. In episode 25, we went through the new BF Funds demo. So we gave a complete demo on how the new fund section works and the new user experience, and the USD and USDT. And also the Edge pitch, I believe that might have been the episode where we interviewed Paul, who's the CEO and founder of Edge, a pitch that's live on our platform right now. And so if you're interested in learning more, head over to episode 25. In episode 26, we started doing interviews with the CEO and co-founder of DX Exchange. DX Exchange is a security token exchange that's set to announce their license as an MTF, a multilateral trading facility, which is a very hard license to achieve. I believe they haven't achieved it yet, but they'll be making some announcements on that. That pitch is actually live. If you're interested in learning more about DX Exchange and investing in the future of security token companies, then you might want to look at our interview with the CEO, Daniel, on episode 26 of Bank to the Future Live. Episode 27 is where we interviewed the Concrete team. Concrete team is another pitch live on Bank to the Future. Remember, we've been doing longer time frames. Most people wait till the end to invest in Bank to the Future pitches. We're actually working on some incentives whereby the earlier you invest, the more you will be rewarded. Because we noticed a big problem in that some people, they look for the social proof of other people investing until they invest. And sometimes a pitch might be less successful just because people are waiting till the end. And that's one of the pitfalls. So we're looking at different ways at the moment in which we can reward people by investing earlier. But if you're interested in the Concrete pitch, which is a play in the security token as well, if you want to be fully diversified across different areas in the security token ecosystem, then Concrete and DX Exchange, two parts that you might want to add to your portfolio. And if you want to meet the team, then head over to episode 27 of Bank to the Future Live.
Hey, Simon.
Hello.
Yeah. have a question in the live chat for you. So what if people want to buy BFT directly from Bank to the Future? Can they do that on the website? And if not, when will that ever happen?
We do not sell Bank to the Future tokens. We sold all of our tokens in our token sale. So we had, when we published our Bank to the Future token roadmap, we had a set of tokens that were allocated for Bank to the Future, and we're able to sell those in the Bank to the Future token sale. That was done by a Bank to the Future Capital SB, just to be accurate. We sold all those tokens in 2 minutes and 17 seconds for the public sale, and we restricted it to the amount you needed to be a member of Bank to the Future, premium member. Now those tokens are either left to hodlers or people that want to sell them on a cryptocurrency exchange which supports the buying and selling of Bank to the Future tokens. And so rather than us selling our tokens, then it's market driven now. And so you can head over to platforms like Bitfinex, Bitfinex, Ethfinex, Gate.io, Huobi Global, Huobi Korea. And if you head over to CoinMarketCap, you can see the different places that you can purchase them. Also, the coin payments team did do an integration with Bank to the Future tokens. And now that we're working on the Bank to the Future exchange, there will also be a market when that gets released in the future for Bank to the Future tokens, which in the future means that we can integrate with those API keys and allow and create really easy ways of people being able to buy those through our platform in the future. But our promise to the community is that we're not dumping our tokens onto and selling them. We're actually making sure that it's market driven at the moment. So we will look to do integration so that if other that own tokens want to sell them, then we can do those through the market is the goal. We haven't touched any of the other token supplies at the moment. All of the tokens that are paid for discounted trading fees, those are locked. We're not doing anything with them at the moment. And so, yeah, that's the way we've designed it. And that was our promise to the Bank to the Future community in terms of managing those tokens. Any other questions you got for us?
Well, yeah, it's about when is the next pitch coming up. But I believe we've covered that. You can hit it if you want.
I didn't give a date. We've got 4 pitches coming up, but at the moment we are probably mid-October is the conservative date for us completing our new escrow account provider. And also we've got some new announcements with regards to our US broker partner as well, as soon as those escrow things are done. And we do have more pitches, but they're all crypto only at the moment. You can only invest with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also if you head over to your BF funds and you deposit funds, then you can use US dollars as well using a bank wire. But we're kind of waiting before we push all these things for all of the payment methods. It's probably us being a bit perfectionist, but we'd like to get that right. But the new exciting pitch that we're very excited to announce, I think there's an October launch for that one, and we'll be putting a lot of resources into that one as well. October's just around the corner. Time flies so fast.
Yeah, I think that's it for now. You can carry on. I'll shoot you anything else.
Okay, we're almost done actually on this section. So hopefully there's some other questions either from last week or some ones that come up.
Yeah, we do actually have some questions from last week and previous weeks actually that we've not been able to get around to asking. So
that went super fast. We started a bit late, so we've only got 10 minutes left, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Amazing. How you can talk about previous episodes for an hour. Okay, episode 28, but the whole goal was to get 30 episodes, so you just get the TLDR and you can go in the direction you want to go. And also maybe this is enough for you to just get the overview that you wanted. Episode 28, deposit and withdrawal changes. This was a dark moment for Bank to the Future. We implemented a withdrawal fee on Bank to the Future. The community was very unhappy. We released it prior to us wanting to release it. It was a cock-up communication between the Bank to the Future team, tech team, and us. We announced exactly what we were going to do to solve the issue. We ended up refunding all of those fees that were charged in error. And we just published an announcement on exactly what we want to do. And hopefully, if you want to understand more about any of those withdrawal fees that you might have been charged at the time, head over to episode 28 and we went through the whole process. If you want a TLDR, I believe there's a new blog post that the team, I think we're just about to, I think it's just getting signed off by compliance at the moment, but our whole plan for deposit and withdrawals and fees. And the answer is that you can head over to the fees section and see that. But we just went through that in episode 28 of Bank to the Future Live. In episode 29, it was actually one of our more popular episodes, not in terms of views, but just in terms of engagement, negativity sells. This is when I had to answer all the questions of everything we're doing wrong and everything that our community and our investor community thinks we're doing wrong. And we just addressed some of the biggest issues and our plans for fixing them in the future. This is we do listen to our investors. Our business model is certainly not to have someone come along, invest once in a pitch, and then they have a bad experience. We don't make money as an organization when that happens. We only make money if you're a repeat investor and you're only going to repeatedly invest. If you're enjoying the user experience that you're getting, you're enjoying the service that we're offering, and we're constantly meeting our investors' needs. And also you like the deals that we're bringing. Not all deals are for everyone. It's different strokes for different folks. We all have different interests and different things that we think are going to be big and different perspectives. But we went through that. And so, just helping you understand that our goal is always to try and make you a repeat investor, because a repeat investor is what we rely upon as a company. And that means that we need to listen to our community. And even though you might not be seeing exactly what you want right away, then we encourage engagement through these episodes, through our Telegram channel, through Twitter, through our support channel if you've got a particular issue that you need resolved. And episode 29 was all over all the things that we know we're doing wrong and we're looking to resolve. Episode 30 was exciting for us, and maybe for those that Bank to the Future's community members and own Bank to the Future tokens. It was announcing, and we had Adam Vaziri and John Thompson from Diacol, a recent strategic investment acquisition we've made, and we were going through the roadmap of how we're now able to offer security token advisory services, more integrations with Bank to the Future, both identity and platform, and very exciting things that we're all up to. You may not manifest the change right now, but these are future things that are going to make a big difference to our ecosystem as they're regulated in UK as an FCA appointed representative. And that brings us to episode 31, which is where we are today, which is where you get 30 episodes all in one. And the TLDR is hopefully we covered everything that you need to know in one episode with a guide to where to go next if you want to go deeper. And hopefully you got a few more questions for me in the final 5 minutes because we started 5 minutes late.
Right, I do have a comment actually from one of our viewers. We want Binance on Bank to the Future.
I would love to have Binance on Bank to the Future, but Binance is one of the most successful companies, not only in our industry, but probably in the whole of startup and technology history. Whatever you think about Binance, whether you love them or hate them, or whether you use them, they're an inspiration to all in the crypto community in terms of the growth, and not just the crypto community. I have never seen a company go from startup to that level of profitability in such a short time frame. I believe it's a world record. They beat Uber, they beat Facebook, they beat Google in terms of startup to profitability and their execution. It's a real phenomenon. It would be really interesting to see what they would value themselves at now if they did release some equity. We will continue to push. We will continue to see if we can make that happen. But if I were Binance, unless I deliberately wanted to engage the community and get them involved in our equity, there'd be no reason to sell equity. They got the Binance token. It's doing incredibly well. It's been a high returning token. It's been a real success story. They have no shortage of money, I'm sure, both in profits and both in terms of their Binance token supplies. And so, yeah, I do have a relationship with CZ. I do have a relationship with different parts of the ecosystem. Bank to the Future has also engaged with Binance at different times. We haven't managed to successfully sign them up as a client, but we would love to get that equity and have them on our secondary market if we could achieve that and if we could get Binance to want to do it. So please do tweet them. Please do do some public tweets. Put myself in there, put CZ in there, put Binance in there, put Bank to the Future in there, and say we want equity, we want Binance equity on Bank to the Future, and maybe we can get some social pressure.
Nice one. So someone's asking, do you have any updates on Exodus?
Exodus produce a quarterly update on the Investor Zone every single quarter. They are one of our more dream companies in terms of clients, in terms of how they treat and respect their investors and provide company updates. So head over to the Investor Zone if you're an Exodus investor, and you can get the updates. They've been pretty consistent. And if they're due another update, then we'll do that. But they are still not converted their convertible note into equity yet. They have been growing very well. The team has been growing very well. We're really happy with them as a company, as an investment, and I think they're a real prime candidate for our secondary market as soon as they convert their convertible note into equity. We don't currently have a market for convertible notes, so we've got to wait for them to convert. And I'm sure they're due anytime soon, another round, so we'll make sure we get an update on that one.
Great, thank you, Simon. We have a question from the Telegram group, actually. Is there any update on the portfolio section for Bank to the Future's accounts?
We were deep into releasing the portfolio section. The roadmap was we were going to do fund section, then portfolio section. And then we were hit with a series of events of having to change our card payment provider, having to change our banking partner, having to change our KYC partner. And then in order to automate deposits and withdrawals, we had to do all sorts of things. It was really disruptive to our roadmap. And we still have a lot of those features that we're looking to roll out. So unfortunately, portfolio redesign has been put on the back burner. I would love to see that right now. We just don't have enough time and resources to release that in a timely fashion. But I agree with you, it's a lot uglier. The usability is really not nice. We're not proud of the portfolio section right now, but it is coming. Don't have a date for you yet. It's in the roadmap, but more pressing things, unfortunately, push that aside over other features that we thought were more important.
So I have a question about the secondary market. So when will the full version be released?
We got that in the Trello roadmap. So if you check out the Trello board, you can see our plan for iterating out. We want to make sure all of our payment methods are fully up to date. And we want to have launched the internal secondary market, still in beta. Once our internal secondary market is done, which is where existing investors can buy and sell from each other, we'll come out of beta and we'll really put some resources behind letting the world know about our secondary market.
What about currencies? You know, the depositing of currencies has been restricted to only certain types, right? So when are we increasing or expanding the different types of currencies that will be available for users to deposit?
So this is one of those issues where it seems like the most simplest thing to the user, but behind the scenes, there's ultra complicated things to achieve at Bank to the Future. The first thing is we're a securities business. We're not a money service provider. In order to exchange cryptocurrencies, you have to have a money service business and a money service license. Now, interestingly, because of our plans with Bank to the Future Exchange, that has been added to the roadmap for Bank to the Future Exchange, which was never going to be part of BnkToTheFuture.com. So we can have a partnership with Bank to the Future Exchange once we've got the relevant licenses, and then we can integrate with the API key in order to make seamless transitions from Bitcoin to Tether, from Ethereum to Tether and Bank to the Future token and all of those good things. But we could obviously do it right now, but as a securities business, that's not what you're permitted to do. And therefore you have to actually operate within different license. The time to achieve those licenses is not quick, it's not fast. There's still a lot more to go. So it's one of those things that it seems like such an easy thing to do, and it should be easy, but the compliance and achieving it is challenging. So it's quite far out. We don't want our markets to be priced in Bitcoin and priced in Ethereum, because we think it becomes too hard to compare the underlying value price to the secondary market price when the underlying is priced in dollars, and then you've got a Bitcoin priced secondary market, then arbitrage between the Bitcoin and US dollar price, and it's just very complicated to understand valuations. So I don't think it's a useful unit of account for the secondary market at this stage, but we can start looking at those more exotic things when we launch the security token exchange. So for now, everything will be denominated in dollars, but you can always go from an exchange from Bitcoin to USDT, deposit USDT, engage in the secondary market, or you can just do a bank wire to the fund section. So, long answer, complicated answer. You probably don't want to know or need to know any of those things, but at least it helps you understand why it's just nowhere near as simple as it seems when compliance and regulations are involved.
That's it, Simon. I think that should be a wrap.
Excellent. Okay, so Famida, thank you very much for those questions. I think we turned a very obscure subject, about 30 episodes into something that worked, and I hope this was useful. Let us know what you'd like to see on episode 32 of Bank to the Future Live. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that update and announcement from the K.IM team. We're really looking forward to seeing that. And that's going to be a wrap for episode 31 of Bank to the Future Live. Please, if you're watching this recording, then let us know in the comment section what you'd like to see next, what your questions are. We'll try and get it in the next episode. And remember, head over to YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell symbol. You'll get a notification from YouTube each and every time we go live. You'll get an email from them if you hit that bell symbol. And let us know what you'd like to see. We build these things for you. I give a lot of content on politics, Bitcoin, crypto, banking, and boy, is the economy in a dire straits situation at the moment. I need to get back on Twitter and cover that. We've had quantitative easing, negative interest rates, Hong Kong situation, all sorts of stuff has been going on. I need to get more active on my personal Twitter at Simon Dixon Twit to cover those more political, but this is just for our Bank to the Future clients. So if you're an investor on our platform, you're a company on our platform, you're just a token holder, a wallet holder, whatever you are, let us know what you'd like to see next. And that's going to do it for episode 31 of Bank to the Future Live. Thank you, Famida. Thank you, everybody else. Over and out.